Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Advice and it's by user Whitish Llama. Old Fling from 2010 added me on Facebook and I think her 15-year-old might be my kid. Back in 2010, I was 20, working a retail job with a girl around my age. We were friends, hung out after work a few times, and one night things got physical. It was a one-time thing. A few days later, she got fired. Not because of me, just workplace drama. And after that, she completely disappeared. Never returned calls, never answered texts, nothing. I figured she just wanted to move on. Life went on for me too. Fast forward to now. I'm 35, married for 8 years, no kids. Yesterday, I get a Facebook friend request from her out of nowhere. I haven't thought about this woman in over a decade. Out of curiosity, I check her profile. She has a son who just turned 15. Here's the thing. The kid looks exactly like me when I was that age. Same hair color, same nose, same build, even the same smile, gap in our front teeth. I used to hate in photos. I showed my brother without saying anything and he said, "Dude, that looks like you in middle school." It also appears she married a guy a few years after our encounter. I believe they are now divorced. He is of a different ethnicity than me. They had a few children together and the 15-year-old appears not his. Now I'm sitting here trying to figure out what to do with this information. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but the math lines up perfectly and the resemblance is impossible to ignore. To make things more difficult, my wife and I have been struggling to conceive for years. We've gone through tests, treatments, and a lot of disappointment. It's been hard on both of us, and the idea that I might have a biological child out there that I never knew about is messing with my head. My wife knows about that fling. She's always known I wasn't a saint before we met, but she obviously doesn't know I might have a 15-year-old kid out there. I have no idea how to even start that conversation. So I've got two problems. One, do I message this woman and ask straight up if her kid is mine? She had to add me for a reason, right? Two, and more importantly, how do I even begin to approach the subject with my wife? I'm not trying to blow up anyone's life here, but if that kid is mine, I feel like I have a right to know, and he has a right to know too. I am in a position in life where I could greatly help him in the next few years, college, etc. On the other hand, I want to prevent causing a huge mess in my marriage. Any direction or advice is appreciated. Well, in my opinion is very straightforward. Get the facts straight of what you know. She contacted you, you checked her profile. Just make sure you've got all the facts for when you sit down with your wife and tell her. Of course, the way you tell her matters. If you just sit her down and tell her, I might have a kid somewhere else, it's a lot different than sitting her down, preparing her, driving her through the conversation and then showing the pictures and all that stuff. But you do need to talk to her. She's the first person you need to talk to about this. And in that conversation, you guys are going to come to a point where you're either in agreement on what to do next, or you're not. If you're not, you try to look for a compromise. If that's impossible to reach, then you might need some help. But regardless of anything else, my opinion is that you need to do this as a couple. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. Common Media 4316 says, if my husband told me he had a 15-year-old he never knew about, I'd just feel bad for him and his son. This is a crazy story though, and I'd try to reconnect with the mom as soon as possible. Damn Lee 686 says, I almost would want to bring up the idea with the missus first, then decide whether any contact about the kid is worth pursuing. I feel best to approach this together, if you think that's what should happen. And Opie responds, this is kind of where my head is at. By principle, I do not talk with other women via social or text out of respect for my wife. I want to tie her in on the entire exchange and how to move forward. Little Potato Face says, 1. Yes. 2. Just say what you said here. You've actually done nothing wrong. You hadn't met your wife, I assume. You were a 20-year-old dude who had a consensual encounter with someone. About 8 years ago, I was visiting my parents overseas. Dad was away for the night when some random woman showed up looking for him. Long story short, my takeaway was that they had an affair a long time ago and a child had been born and she couldn't keep it a secret anymore. You know what I said to my mom? You can't get mad. You hadn't even met him and it's not like he knew about this. Anyway, turns out I was off base with my theory, but the broader point stands. Intrepid Much says, first, tell your wife. Tell her now. Second, decide together what next steps should be, especially since you're a tad rudderless right now. Third, if you are both in agreement, ask the question. Now, while all this is going on, she may preempt you and just say, surprise, which is why you tell your wife now. And Lenore Leander says, I have a family member who found out at 14 years old that the dad she thought was hers actually wasn't, and it was some guy from a one-night stand. He also didn't know she existed, both equally deadbeats, and it severely negatively impacted her. If you involve yourself, you need to make sure you're a consistent figure in his life and not just sporadic or holidays. He is at such a fragile age, you will need to spend consistent time with him in person and not just over the phone. If he doesn't have any father figure and you step in, he will latch on and your decisions forward can easily spiral him or set him up for success. Talk to your wife about it and make a plan together. Discuss what would change if your fertility issues end in a pregnancy and how would he be involved with his new half-sibling. If you reach out to this woman, you need to have your intentions laid out. Alright, to me the community was pretty helpful. I mean, they basically told him talk to your wife first and then figure out what to do. But they also had other input that was quite interesting. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. I made my original post here a few days ago and wanted to follow up since a few of you requested it. Yesterday morning, I told my wife everything. I was nervous to even start the conversation, but I knew keeping it to myself was not fair to her. This year has already been extremely hard on her with ongoing mental health struggles, and I did not want to add more weight to her shoulders, but she deserved honesty. She took it better than I expected. She was upset, but calm, and said she agreed the resemblance between me and the boy was too strong to ignore. In her words, yeah, that kid has your teeth. We talked for a long time and decided I should reach out again to get clarity. Later in the day, I messaged the woman on Facebook. I kept it brief and direct. I told her that I noticed her friend request, that I was not comfortable accepting it since I am married, and asked why she reached out. I added that if there was something important she wanted to discuss, I was willing to listen, but otherwise I preferred not to reconnect. She responded shortly after my message. She explained that back in 2010, she had been seeing an on and off boyfriend around the same time she and I hooked up. When she found out she was pregnant, she believed the child was likely his and told him so. They stayed together for a while and then they split up. He continued to pay child support. According to her, he was never really involved in the boy's life. Out of curiosity, I looked him up. A simple Google search showed a long history of legal trouble, including multiple DUIs, time in prison, and other offenses. From everything I have learned, he was not much of a father figure. Recently, his new wife began pressing for a DNA test because the boy did not resemble him. He finally agreed, and the test confirmed he is not the biological father. That discovery set off a chain reaction and is now filed to terminate child support and is suing to recover the money he paid over the years. I'm an attorney. From a legal standpoint, I know that this is an uphill battle for him. It is extremely difficult to recover past child support once it has been paid. Courts tend to prioritize stability for the child over fairness to the adults. Without a certain father to shift the obligation to, meaning no one else has yet been legally established as the biological father, most courts will not vacate the original paternity finding. They do not want to leave the child without a legally responsible parent, even if the prior assumption turns out to be wrong. Long story short, it appears he willingly agreed to support the child 15 years ago without a paternity finding. He should have done his due diligence then. On top of this, he currently owes her almost $23,000 in child support arrearages. In my jurisdiction, that principle holds true as well. Overturning paternity this late in the game is nearly impossible unless another father is confirmed and willing to assume the legal responsibility. The woman told me that after the DNA results came back, she thought of me immediately and said I am the only other possible father. She also said she has already told her son the truth, that the man he believed to be his father is not biologically related to him. She said it has been difficult for him to process, but she felt it was time to be honest. She has not asked me for anything. She has waited almost 6 months to reach out to me. No money, no contact, no involvement. She said she only wanted me to know and that she is open to doing a DNA test whenever I am ready. I have already discussed this with my attorney friend who is licensed in her state. He walked me through some of my options and explained the potential legal implications depending on how things unfold. I am considering those now. My wife and I are still processing everything. This has been a long weekend. She has been more understanding than I could have hoped for, though I can tell it weighs on her. I am trying to balance the desire to know the truth with not wanting to disrupt a teenager's life that is already unsettled. For now, we are taking things one step at a time. The woman seems sincere and has not shown any signs of ulterior motives, but for the sake of attorney-client privilege and everyone's privacy, I may not post another update. P.S. The woman did see my original post on here. This post has been heavily edited to include only the relevant facts and to preserve attorney-client privilege. It still felt an obligation to keep you all apprised, since many of you gave sincere advice and helped me think clearly when this first surfaced. As always, any help or advice is appreciated. Well, Opie, in my opinion, you already got through the hardest part, which was get on the same page with your wife and tell her all about this, and she took it all in and she was really cool about it. Nice. So now I think you gotta take it one step at a time. The other woman isn't rushing you, so you have the time that you need. And on that note, Opie, here's wishing you the best. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user WorkingTelephone498. Am I the a-hole for taking a job that conflicted with my best friend's wedding after he refused to compromise on unreasonable demands? So, my best friend got engaged about a year ago and asked me to be a groomsman. I said yes immediately because that's what you do. We've known each other since like middle school and I was genuinely excited. But then planning started and it got weird. His fiancée, who I've never been super close with, started making all these demands about what groomsmen needed to do. Custom shirts, specific haircuts, mandatory bachelor party at her chosen location, contributions to things I never agreed to. It was getting expensive and honestly kind of controlling. I mentioned to my friend that some of the stuff seemed excessive. Like, I get wanting your wedding to look nice, but requiring specific haircuts felt over the line. He just said, "It's not that big of a deal, come on," and shut down the conversation. That's when I kinda started pulling back emotionally from the whole thing. Fast forward to about 3 months before the wedding and I got a new job offer that required me to relocate for like 2 weeks of training right before the wedding. I told him immediately and said I'd try to reschedule it or work something out. He lost it, started saying I was abandoning him and that real friends would just turn down the job. I reminded him that I need to actually have a career and that I was still going to be there for the wedding. Here's the thing though, I could have tried harder to reschedule. I didn't really push back with my new employer because honestly, I was kind of over the whole wedding stress at that point. I think subconsciously, I wanted an out. His fiancée apparently told him it was suspicious timing and that I was being selfish. My friend basically told me I was either fully committed or not committed at all. I ended up keeping the job training and going, but I told him I'd only make it back the day before the wedding. That meant I couldn't go to the rehearsal dinner or the bachelor party. He said that was unacceptable and that if I couldn't be there for everything, then I shouldn't be in the wedding at all. So I got dropped as a groomsman like a week before the wedding. I was upset, but also kind of relieved, which tells me something about how I was feeling about the whole thing. Now, a few months later, he's still mad at me. He says I chose a job over my best friend. I say he chose his fiance's demands over our friendship. My other friends are split. Some say I should have just turned down the job. Others say the wedding demands are unreasonable and he was being controlling about it. The thing is, I could have handled this better. I could have been more honest about feeling uncomfortable instead of just pulling back. And yeah, I definitely could have tried harder with the job thing. But he also could have been more flexible and reasonable about what he was asking of me. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, in my opinion, no, I don't think you're the a-hole, because you did try to talk to your friend. You tried to tell him that you didn't like any of this stuff, that you were being sort of forced into doing things you didn't really want to do. And instead of hearing you out and trying to do something about it, he brushed you off and said, don't worry about it, keep going. So no, I don't blame you for not pushing back against your current employer and making it work. And honestly, that thing he said, that a good friend would turn down the job, he can't possibly be serious. If that happened to me and one of my friends got a job, I'd be like, well, I hope you can make it to the wedding, but good for you. Anyways, OP, not the a-hole. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. Regular Giraffe 1879 says, reality check for all the brides and grooms out there. Your wedding is nothing more than a party. If you are literally asking people's lives to revolve around a party, you are taking things way too far. Asking people to alter their appearance or not take a job for your party is insane. OP is better off without friends like this. Brief Course 6640 says, not the a-hole, but you probably weren't going to be seeing this friend until he gets divorced. If his wife doesn't like you and he seems to go along with her, your friendship was doomed before the job came into it. Better that you invest in the job. It is more of a future than your friendship anyway. And Dopey responds, damn, that's a kind of harsh take, but I get it. And yeah, I've definitely thought about the fact that things might not go back to normal between us. Like, if she already didn't like me and he was willing to just cut me out over the wedding stuff, that's not really friendship material anyway. But I don't want to write him off completely just yet, you know? We have like 15 years of history. I'm hoping once the wedding is over and the newlywed phase wears off, he'll realize how she was pushing him around and maybe want to reconnect, or at least apologize for the ultimatum. That said, you're probably right that I should be realistic about it. I'm not gonna sit around waiting for him to get his head straight. I'm gonna focus on the job and the people in my life who actually have my back. If the friendship survives, it survives. But I'm not going to sacrifice myself trying to fix something he's not willing to work on from his end. And NDL Senon says, not the a-hole. People who are super uptight and controlling about having the perfect wedding are always going to end up frustrated, angry, and disappointed because something will go wrong. A true friend would have been cheering you on in your new job rather than asking you to sacrifice your own future to make them feel better for a day. The community agrees OP is not the a-hole with great points. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. I decided to actually call him instead of waiting for next week. Figured I'd strike while the iron was hot since I was feeling like maybe we could actually talk about this. He answered and seemed kind of cold right off the bat. I started by apologizing for checking out and not being honest with him about how stressed the wedding stuff was making me. I thought that would open things up. Instead, he said, yeah, well, you've been posting about this on Reddit, haven't you? His wife apparently saw a thread that sounded like it could be us and showed it to him, and now he's pissed. He's saying I'm airing dirty laundry online for strangers to judge him and his wife, that I'm trying to make her look bad. I literally don't even know how she found it. It was only up for like an hour before I called him. The post just went up. I'm pretty sure I didn't leave any obvious details that would lead back to us, but either she recognized stuff or someone in our friend group figured it out and told them. Either way, it feels like a violation. I tried to explain that I used to throw away and kept things vague, but he wasn't hearing it. He said if I'm willing to post about our friendship online, then clearly I don't actually value the friendship. He told me not to contact him again and blocked me on everything. His wife apparently also texted some of the other groomsmen saying I'm trash-talking them online, which obviously isn't great for my reputation in the friend group. So yeah, the opposite of reconciliation happened. I'm actually furious right now because I came to Reddit to process my feelings and now it's literally destroyed what was left of the friendship. I don't know if I should have told him or if I should have just kept it to myself. I genuinely don't know what to do now. Well, OP, it can happen sometimes that if you post on Reddit, people will find it. It's not a violation, of course, because you wrote it there. Now, you didn't put any details like their names or anything, so it's also not a violation of them. And since this whole thing is blown up anyway, what I would do is just share the post with the groomsmen and let them decide if you're trash talking them or not. So here's wishing you the best, OP. Thanks for sharing and to take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Sobigod00. Sale only online? Give me a minute. While scrolling an electronic chain store website, I find an item I've been wanting at 40% off. Upon seeing it available at my local store, I figured I'm going out anyway. I'll just get it in person. Upon reaching the store, I found my item, but to my annoyance, it's showing full price. I inquired with the floor goblin about my conundrum and was informed that price is online only and they cannot price match their own prices. Okay, give me a minute. I pull out my phone, go to the store app and find my deeply discounted item. Add to cart, select the pickup in store and hit complete purchase. While walking around looking at other various items, the same floor goblin walked past me with one of those handheld scanners towards where my item resides. He scans it and as he turns around, spots me leaving the next aisle. He looks at the item in his hand, signs and says, "This is probably yours, right?" I smiled, not politely, and follow him to the service center. He hands it to the girl at the counter who happens to be assistant manager. She acknowledged my prompt item retrieval and I told her the backstory. She has a good laugh, gives me kudos, and to have a great afternoon. Well, it'll be good to know you used the discount in the system to get your best item, but also, come on, logic. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.